Mr. President, just a few words. It's been a long debate on this motion, but there are a few things that we need to correct. I won't elaborate on the timing, all of that has been ventilated, and I won't elaborate on the area that has also been, but there are a few things we have to bear in mind. I think the first thing we need to be clear on is that we here in the Senate are being asked, just like the House, to approve a loan to construct this road and 2 bridges. That's what we're being asked to do. Over the years, there's been requests for details of those loans that were never forthcoming. We have ensured that those details of the loan are forthcoming. The loan document lays out many provisions, all relevant to the loan. We can accept them or not. That is what we're here for. It is not aid money. It is a loan. People of Belize need to understand what that means. I think each and every one of us in here, businessmen, professionals alike, have always borrowed money. And why do you borrow money? You borrow money because you don't, at that point in time, have the necessary funds to carry out the object of your borrowing. But you schedule it over a period of time when you know you can ably repay it. But it goes a little deeper, you know. There are only a few countries in the world that have the luxury, only a few countries in the world that have the luxury of being able to be developed on their own currency. The United States is one of them. The Belize dollar, Mr. President, goes nowhere. You cannot take it beyond our borders. It is like monopoly money working within the confines of the 8,867. But every single thing we need to buy needs either the US dollar, the euro, or the yen, or some foreign currency. That is a fact. How do we earn our US currency? We earn it by remittances from people in the States, which is shrinking. And if the president has its way and deports most Belizeans, that will dry up. The president and I say amen. We earn it by the goods we sell. Those are subject to prices they set. They are subject to regulation and rules. But that is the world we are in. We earn it by the services we sell. Major one being tourism. That's how we earn that US dollar. But it is a very limited supply. Never gets over $500 million. Never. The central bank then must regulate its utilization. Because the day-to-day life of people goes on. When my esteemed colleague and friend for many years in his business wants to import something, he needs the US dollar. He has to go to the central bank for a permit. And the central bank rations that US dollar. Were the government of Belize able to, or determined to go to the central bank and say, I need $50 million US dollars right now, because I'm going to build this road, it would suck it out of the flow. And all the people in Belize would punish, because it would be not there to buy the goods, the services, the food, everything that we import in this country. People in the United States don't have that problem. The US is their money. And they could print up more. We could print up more Belize money too, you know. But there's just more money circulating in Belize. So, to be able to do any project, what we do is we suggest, can we pay this back over a period of time, not sucking all the 50 million out of the US stream, but little by little, meter, piece by piece. And that is why we go for 20, 25 years. So that we will be sucking out 400,000 or 300,000 or something, little by little, and leave the rest for the life to goes on. That is what we do. And that is the reason for borrowing these monies to do the project. Or we could wait 25 years and save that little bit, save that little bit, save that little bit, save that little bit. That's what my mother did, you know. That's what old people did in Belize in the days. That's why we never had flush toilet in your house. We never had cars, never had nothing. Because they save and save till they could afford to buy. When we began to be able to get credit on the principle that because we have a job we could pay back, or we have some business that could pay back, we began to move the economy. And you began to see lovely homes in Belize, lovely cars in Belize, etc. Every one of you know there's a heck of a liability behind most of us. And I will ask my colleague from the business community, because he knows, I sell that seat. There is not a businessman in this country who have liability. Or you can't function. That's how it is. But you rationalize the concept of that liability to ensure that you will be able to pay it back over the period of time for which you got the loan. That is what we do with these loans. And as long as we can do that, as long as we can be satisfied that we begin to pay in 5 years' time, yes, in 5 years' time we'll have the first $100,000 or the first $400,000 to pay, we're good to go. But we get the facility now that we can enjoy, which helps to develop our country and helps to make life better. Honorable Senator Pastor Rock said he broke up his shacks and everything going over that road. I am telling you, somebody like me at my age, who rode those whole cross countries in the 60s on that Western Highway that was gravel and dust and soft sand, etc., are so happy to have roads that you can run on without that stress. Going into the beautiful village of Isabella, where I reside for most of the time, on the boom road when it was gravel and all of that, and you had to cross 2 ferries to get, well, 1 ferry at Birmingham Landing to get there, you could not decide to go there and come back in 1 day easily. Today it's a 30-minute drive. That is why we do this. Enough said about the US dollar and the loans. So let us understand why we do that. We do that because we don't have the US funds. And we may never have the US funds to satisfy our continued development. Many, many countries, Argentina, Chile, all of them, sometimes they have to drop a lot of zeros after the money because they have to do it. The only country in the entire world, starting with the Marshall Plan, that is able to do that is the Great United States, because all the president has to do is print 1 big coin and rub out all their debt. But that is why they run our lives, sir. That is why they are the man on the block, and the king of kings, and the ruler of rulers, and everything. And if they say jump, you say how high, you know, that's why. That is a fact. Nobody can challenge that. Let me go to the next area now. Separation of powers. We need to understand the separation of powers. There's an executive branch of government with many, many departments under it, thousands of workers. There's a legislative arm of government, and there's a judicial arm of government, and they are separate in terms of their functions. We here, standing here, I wear 2 hats, but in this chamber, I wear the legislative hat. When I walk out of here and I go to my ministry, I wear the executive hat. I don't wear them at the same time because there's separation of powers. The legislature is asked to approve the representations of the executive, but the executive is required to execute that. And for that reason, you have engineers, you have accountants, you have all sorts of things. In fact, in the old British system, there used to be a joke that the representative is the man who speaks the loudest on the platform. He need not know anything because he says, I want a bridge, rah, rah, rah. He doesn't even understand it. But I want it for the 9th of September, and on the 9th of September, he will be there, and somebody would have had a scissors and would have put the ribbon and written a speech for him, and he had cut it, and everybody clapped. And those he represented say, yeah, good fella, he get me a bridge. But the bridge is designed by engineers, accountants, financiers, lawyers, a whole cadre of people. That is why those people don't go in our system when we go. When I am just Godwin Hulse, no longer honorable, nothing, all the people in my department will still be there. Every single one, all the heads of departments, because there is a continuity. In my ministry, I insist that only the actual implementers go to these meetings, etc. I don't go at all. I set the stage, I preside, I don't travel. One little trip I made last week in 6 years. I don't travel. Because the institutional memory must be with the system. Not with the minister, it must be with the system. And that's why you have heads of departments, CEOs, accountants, everybody. and they must be responsible for that. I say that because it is separation of powers. And if you may, Mr. President, you may, as an officer of the court, and as Senator Shebat as an officer of the court, and Senator Salazar as an officer of the court, and as Senator the AG as an officer of the court, I want to highlight the separation between the courts and the executives in a very famous case. And if you allow me 30 seconds, I'll read what was said. This was in relation to a judgment which troubled all of us. And this was the UHS judgment by the highest court of Belize at the time, the Privy Council. Simply to highlight the separation between them, the court, and the executive branch. I was intimately involved in this case because I had put my name on it from the beginning. And this is what the court said. It says the board has already expressed the view that on its true construction, the loan note is a promissory note, and that none of the documents evidences any loan or borrowing by the bank. Moreover, there is no evidence of any collateral loan agreement or loan arrangement. It follows that the board, which means the Privy Council, accepts 1 and 2 in the summary of the bank's case at paragraph 9. It further accepts the point, namely, that there can be no loan without any advance of funds. It goes on to say the board does not consider itself with the utilization and the details of the transaction. Namely, that there is also in force in point 4, namely, that a promissory note, the loan note, is enforceable quite apart from the validity of the underlying transaction. In other words, we don't care about the transaction, we just tell you what is enforceable. And from our legal perspective, a promissory note is a promissory note. For value received, that's the executive business. And then it goes on to say the board founds its judgment, therefore, upon its conclusion that there is no evidence of any loan or borrowing by government. The documents are inconsistent with such loan or borrowing, and there is no other evidence to support it. And they conclude, but we still pay back $33 million, plus all its interest. It's now $90 million. Because they were not concerned about the details and how you get there. They were ruling in their purview of judiciary. We are here in our purview of legislative, and the executive is there in its purview as executive. I wanted to highlight and clear that point. Last but not least, I wanted to suggest that from the details that I keep hearing, Mr. President, I'm an engineer. Not in here, but that's my profession. When you look at the details of, for example, the Western Highway from the bridge at Roaring Creek all the way to San Ignacio, you're looking about 600 and odd pages of intrinsic drawings, calculations, etc. But one thing stands out. I hear this over and over, and I hear it at the house. Farber's Road, this road, that road. Do you know that the engineers of the Ministry of Works, in the person of Mr. Moody, very high, well-respected engineer, and Mr. Puga from the project execution unit, stood in the Biltmore and gave every single detail to the last block of why that road is what is it and what it is costing, etc., etc. Every single detail, it is available. And that is why it was 8 million and something. It wasn't done by any minister. It wasn't concocted. It wasn't out of thin air. But more importantly, I want to leave you all with this. From a logical point of view, everybody who lives in Belize City, who has gone to Belize City, who has ever been in Belize City would know that if you are building a house in Belize City and you are building a house in Belmopan, it's two different things. Because in Belize City, you have to drive some piles, you have to do all kind of things before you even begin the foundation. And you don't rack up $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for a small house before you put even the foundation. If you are doing that in Belmopan, you have a hard time even digging the soil to put the foundation. So please, man, you can't compare that. And so when you're doing roads there, just please, Mr. President, and you will know, not to respond, but you will know, because you cannot respond, that I had said to you when you were doing that stellar work in Belize City, for which I congratulate you at the time when you were the heart of the mayor. I don't know if there are 100 and something streets, all cemented, beautiful works. I had said to you, do not attempt to do that piece between the Halover Bridge and Belama. You will recall. For the simple reason that is an area that requires tremendous expense to do, and you would have sunk all your money there and not accomplish anything. In fact, if you look on the Western Highway right now, the George Price Highway, I challenge all of you as you're returning to Belize City when you get over the Mile 5 Bridge, see what's happening to that little piece. You know how much time that has been done? You know how much time that's been done? And the only way you could fix that road between Old Belize and that bridge, if you spend close to $100 million to pile it, and the piles will go down some 400 feet before you reach a refusal. And how do I know that? Because I was with BSI when we were trying to pile the pier by where the mariculture place is. We were trying to pile that piece of ground to put in a shed to store brown sugar to be able to fill the ships out in the sea rather than be using the barges we are using. The cost was exuberant to do. You can only do those areas by bridging them. You can only do them by bridging them. And if we were ever to come here and say to the people, I believe we're going to do half mile and it's going to do $100 million or something like that, that's also been nuts. So every year we continue to fill and fill and fill and fill and put lovely lines, and it looks good, and I challenge any of you to drive over it when you see the first rain come. And Mother Nature say, okay, thank you very much, the bottom has gone now and the road going again, push. Those are the challenges we face. And as there's global warming and as there's all of this, the challenge will even be greater. I can predict if we keep going how we're going worldwide, which Belize has nothing to do with, because we have reserved and preserved most of our country. But if we continue to go how we are going, Mr. President, 30, 40 years from now, you will evacuate that city completely. Tides will be high enough. Senator Salas will still be a young man, and he'll remember we said that here. The tides will overcome the city, and we'll have to move to higher land and higher land and higher land. All of those challenges we have. This is why I didn't say anything on the preparedness, because in all light, we have to be preparing and preparing. But please, man, let us do not disrespect our engineers, our finance people, our accountants who work through these things. Let us work from the legislative perspective to say, executive has asked us whether we should proceed with this road. The executive has asked us whether we should borrow this money. The executive has given to us the full details of the contract of these loans. And therefore, our responsibility is to see. And I agree with Senator Lizaraga. Some details are necessary. And the next time I might try to get them, but the details I am hearing is, will the road be paved? Will it be wide enough? Will it be how long? Will it be cemented, or will it be just paved? And that sort of thing. That detail is reasonable to provide. But I am sure you don't want the details and detailed construction designs and all the rest of the thing, because we'll be here forever. So those general questions. And I will suggest also, ladies and gentlemen, honorable senators, write the departments, man. The AG had promised. He had promised that you would get information, and we are getting. I was happy to see, for the first time, I was happy to hear Senator Lizaraga say, oh, we got the deals. But push, man, push. We are senators, you know. Nobody can tell we know. We are senators. Keep pushing. Do not be in the position, and I will say that, Senator Lizaraga, because I stood alone for about 13 years. Well, 10 years to be exact. When I used to get House meetings on a Friday and Senate meeting on a Monday. You know that. And I used to spend my weekend trying to get every piece of information I get. My people never used to, my wife never used to like it. You work 24/7. Nobody to pay. They used to pay senators $300. But I got the details. I harass a call. Never give me no phone. They never give me no nothing. I harass a call. I look up. I ride down. I go to people's house. I do all kinds to get the details. We have 2 weeks. This time we had 2 full weeks. Right, senators? Harassment. Do any of you in here think that I, as the minister responsible for agriculture, and I'm glad my good friend Senator Dr. Louis Sabani didn't mention the agriculture as part of the areas that we're not progressing, because we're trying to do our best there too. Do you believe that I am able to move mountains there without riding, harassing, being on top of people? People face lang, people not come. That is the public service, you man. People will come, they're supposed to deliver something tomorrow, and then you know they're sick. They never tell you yesterday they're sick and get sick last night. Nobody is holding over, but you got a meeting today with some data you need. And when you call them, they answer the phone neither, because they got a worse cough or the worst cold. That is what we face. We know all of that. So you have to be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Senators, write the department heads, write the ministers, write the CEOs, push for your information. We will try to provide, but I won't never try to provide you with these huge books of construction details because really it would tire you. I move the motion.
Honorable members, the question is now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House, being satisfied that the loan proceeds will be utilized for the purpose stated above, approve and confirm that the government of Belize may enter into a loan agreement with the Export-Import Bank of the Republic of China, Taiwan, Exim Bank, on the terms and conditions set out above, and further authorize the Minister of Finance to execute and deliver the said loan agreement and all other documents and agreements connected therewith. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.